Joining us in Singapore, Lin Tian-Wai, Adjunct Senior Research Fellow at the National University of Singapore. In Beijing, Han Hua, President of Beijing Belt and Road Cooperative Community. Also in Beijing, Zhi Qiang, Fellow of Minzu University of China. Good to see all of you. Thank you so much. Mr. Lim, observing from where you are, how important it is that summer travel season will be a successful one. Even for the momentum of the Chinese economy and certainly for encouragement of domestic consumption?
It will be very important because at about this time, the recovery of Chinese domestic tourism is near the pre-pandemic era, and therefore it has spiced up a lot of attention given to Chinese tourism. And I think there's about two trends that have emerged recently in China. The first trend is that the prevalence of the high-speed rail, HSR, has been able to bring Chinese tourists to all corners of China, including the corners that are not usually reachable by tourism. And secondly, the second trend is that it can bring tourists to small towns where Chinese tourists can enjoy small town charms. And it's not just Chinese tourists. Many foreign tourists in China are also very interested to look into small town charms in those areas. And now they are made accessible and travelable by a high-speed rail. Another charm of a small town tourism is that they can experience local culture and local sort of festivities, which is all in line with this year's trend towards experiential tourism. So all in all, I think mobility and transportation has made it possible for domestic tourism to reach into previously sort of less accessible parts of China. And this can only benefit domestic as well as increasing foreign tourism in China itself.
You know, what it is necessary for the Chinese to feel they want to travel and they want to travel once and again during the summer season at this point?
You know, summer holidays usually the prime time for Chinese families to make travel plans. So every year, the summer holiday is always the hot season. So for this year in particular, I think as we are facing kind of economic difficult situation, and we just had the third plenum of the CPC Party Central Committee meeting. So I think if there is only one word that can be connected to the real life daily basis, that is the new quality production force. And I think tourism as well as the travel is always the vivid example of how to show that we have and we still have the innovative new quality production force in terms of in translating into daily life for people to enjoy their holidays and to tap on the road and enjoy different destinations, different experiences.
What would make you tempting to travel to one place? Whether it is service or the scenery or the history or, the kind of entertainment being provided. What would encourage Chinese tourists to take the money out of their pocket? It's not that they don't have the money. They just not want to spend as much as what the economists want, right? So what would tempting them to take out the money and to encourage domestic consumption? I think that's an interesting topic.
Yes, I want to share with you, and I fully agree with you about that point, which is Chinese people have the largest saving in terms of the amount of money in the banks. So what kind of incentives can give them and can propose them to take the money out of their pockets? And I think you have answered these questions for the most part. And for me in particular, I think first thing first, what kind of new experience I can have for a new destination if I want to. I always want to tap into new destinations to experience. This year, I'm particularly driven by my daughter, who is a high school graduate and who wants to have some graduation travel upon her graduation and before she go into college. So I think that is quite important. So her readings and her chat with her peers regarding what are the new destinations for a new for a kind of personal experience is very crucial to me. For example, she proposed to go to Fushun, the Liaoning province, and some other cities in the northeast part of China. Is inspired by an exhibition in Beijing in 798, so illustrating some the ordinary and daily life of the Liaoning people. So she wanted to know what kind of the small city people live like. So this is quite an incentive. Another incentive is my personal interest in the history. So this year is the very first year for the Luoyang, the new museum, which is called the Arlitou Museum in Luoyang, to be formally open to the public, because it was established right before the pandemic. So during the whole pandemic, it is really the suffering for them to have no tourists at all. So this is my personal interest, and I'm amazed to see that people just not only go to the museum to see the history, to see the relics, to see the vivid account of the history relics from the Xia dynasty, but also the personal experience, like wearing the Han and even the Tang clothing on the Luoyang street is another personal experience to drive you to spend more in Luoyang city, and not to mention the merchandise driven by the duplicate of the relics. So these are some personal incentives for me. Of course, I want to have some other very exotic experience when I tap into the websites, the travel websites, and I see many user-generated content. Actually, when I searched about the history relics, I can be promoted by a lot of this kind of destinations for me to plan for my next travel plan.
Well said, Ms. Han. Mr. Chu, it seems very clearly that the Chinese consumers, such as Ms. Han, and probably you too, wants to travel and wants to spend, as long as there are destinations and services that would satisfy their curiosity and enrich their traveling experiences. Do you think there are enough of them? Do you see there are enough efforts being made in order to create some of them?
Oh, wait, I think there are lots of effort has already been made. We have already seen great changes, great improvement, but it's basically not enough still. The past model of Chinese tourism, basically it's more like, a very simple experience. But right now, people want more. People's mindset has already been changed. As you said, they want more of the destination. They want more of the experience. According to my observation in the summer vacation, we find several kinds of a new tour stands out, actually. For example, what we call the culture and heritage tour, as well as a study tour. And also we have a sports tour recently. Well, I think culture and heritage tour is very different from the past, because a museum used to be a cold place. Nobody would like to go. But right now you go there, you find people mountain, people see. I was in a museum in summer, and when I was talking to my friends, introducing them about art, pictures, and the culture heritage in the museum, many people are surrounding us and listen to what we're talking about. Many of them are just the middle school students. They want to learn more, as well as study tour. Well, I'm living in, Beijing, and there are many universities in here. Whenever I go to the Beida and Tsinghua University, you will see mountain people see as well. Many of the middle school students just come from all over the places in the country, just want to see this prestigious schools and have some aspiration, or build themselves some dream in the future to get into this, very famous colleges in the future. As well as we mentioned, sports too, especially when we have Paris Olympic Games, as well as we have the European Cup going on. So many Chinese tourists actually buy their ticket, fly outside China to enjoy this international event, and become a very important, consumer forces in the international tourism market. So this is something we're developing into this market.
One of the key issues is how to bring out the momentum in the general society, Mr. Lim, in China. For example, about music, about arts, about history, about sports, and let them freely flow. And therefore, people would have more curiosity about any of these subjects and more. And therefore, they would love to spend to the topics that they are interested in, on the topics that they're interested in. Mr. Lim, how to bring out that momentum and energy? That is a very interesting question.
Well, there are three initiatives by the stakeholders in domestic tourism in China. And these three initiatives include, number one, there's a lot of initiatives to set up digital platforms in which it can create public awareness and also have campaigns online about sites as well as locations of tourism sites and places where people can visit, and to give them the information that they need to be attracted to those places, and after arriving, to be able to use their mobile devices to learn more about those sites via real-time information. The second initiatives by the stakeholders is that there is a multi-stakeholder sharing of information. For example, local governments, central governments, private tour operators, and also digital platform operators can share data with each other so that they can keep each other aware of the trends, the traffic, the flow of tourists to various sites, and to be able to adjust public tourism infrastructure in order to accommodate these tour buses, tour groups, and tour packages. And finally, the third initiative is actually we have sort of depended a lot on the digital platforms, but there's also a need for brick and mortar platforms, physical platforms in which tourists can go to those places to ask for more information in order to travel to places that are not usually advertised in tour guides and tour books or online sites.
Thank you so much, Chi Qiang, Han Hua, and Lin Tianwai. Appreciate it.